Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. It's V, the Grill Economist, coming to you live on this edition of Strategic Life. And we have with us the man of the hour who needs no introduction. We are talking about the one and only John J. Singleton. And today is a special broadcast. We're talking about getting your data back, how to protect your data from being siphoned up and sucked up by the Borg itself, where you don't even know what's happening. There's 1,000,001 robocallers calling you. Everybody knows your business. And it's like you're lit up on a radar screen. Well, John's going to show you what you can do, that you're not a hapless victim. And on the cusp of the Palantir government rollouts, on the cusp of surveillance capitalism, folks. That is the new world we're entering into, surveillance capitalism, where you are the product that's being traded. You are the product that's being exploited. It's your data that's being traded. John J. Singleton is going to give you the tools to fight back. You don't have to take it lying down. And with that being said, John, welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Thanks so much. Very good. Thanks.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you back. Where do you want to go, man? I relent the floor to you. This is a very heady topic, something you are well-versed in as a privacy expert. Go for it, John.
Well, thank you. And where do I start? So let's just look at the most common thing I hear from people is, or that this is their thinking, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's okay. Plus, I get all kinds of points when I download the app on my phone, Why would I give that up, But what you don't realize is what's going on in the background. You have a system that wants to collect your data. That's been going on for a long time. I mean, you give up your biometric data when you get a driver's license, right?
Yeah.
Think about how subtle this is. So you have to have a driver's license to drive. I know a lot of you guys are going to say, wait a minute, you don't. Yeah. But you need a driver's license, right? So to get one, you have to pay a tax to get one. So why is it that when you pay the tax to get the driver's license, you have to include permanent record of your face, your biometric data, with your biographical data together in a government database to pay the tax? Why can't you just pay the tax and get a receipt? And if the police stop you, you can show that you have the receipt, or you get the registration for your car. Why does there have to be the collection of your biometric data? And this has been going on for what, 100 years? And so this is not new, right? But what's really kind of scary is when they want to collect more intimate data to make it like tie you in, like maybe make it to where when you want to get access to anything, not just the government privilege, let's say, but you want to get access to just regular consumer goods and services, you just got to give up your biometric data. So there's this kind of lien on your life, on your data. And let me just say, so the data, which when it identifies you individually, is an aspect of privacy and your likeness. So for example, your social security number, that's just a number. Who cares? But your social security number, when it's associated with your name and date of birth, that's a different world.
Yeah.
Your name associated with your residential address, different world. Now, some of these are easy, quick fixes. It's real easy to just begin receiving mail at your house in a fictitious name. There's nothing wrong with that. And for those things that we order that you need a physical address, you could just send it as a gift to Charlie Brown, right? That's pretty babyish, simple stuff.
Right.
But it's pretty naive to think that just because you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't be concerned about the collection of your data. When you have to realize, okay, so maybe you need to understand that the use of, let's say, for example, your smart meter, that information can be obtained with a document from a court that is never approved by a judge. Okay, it's called a subpoena. Mm-hmm. That subpoena can be sent to your utility company without your knowledge, and the police be given access to the use of your electricity, and the police can tell very clearly when you're using the washer, when you're using your electric toothbrush or the toaster, or things of this nature. And you would think, wow, so what? But then maybe that pattern of behavior is associated with a suspect in a crime. In which case, if you guys do some research, you'll find out that some people have been wrongly accused based upon this type of what you would call circumstantial information. Sure. So I'm not saying that this is the only concern. I think my real concern is that just people we don't know are able to look at my life, and they're not able to, it's not the same as if I go to the mall, people can see me. It's like if I go to the mall, people can see me forever.
Yeah.
Now, and 10 years from now, if someone wanted to, he can see what I did 10 years ago at the mall. This is the
Right.
problem. Yeah.
And you're walking around the mall with your credit score advertised above you,
Oh my
with all the
gosh.
places you
Ugh.
visited and shopped, all the things you bought, who's your next of kin, where do you shop at, where do you bank at, it's too much. It's too much.
I'll tell you, back in the 90s, in the 90s, we didn't have all this data collection, but I could tell you, I'm kind of a geek when it comes to some of this stuff. And so just out of curiosity, I wanted to go find out what information is available about myself when I'm driving in traffic. Now, this is back in the 90s in Florida, and I was able to look up. So there's this thing called a tag verification. Now, I think there's more restrictions on it now, but for you and me, there are. But anyone else that we don't want to have access, there are no restrictions, really. But I could do a tag verification and get somebody's name and find out who owns that car.
Yeah.
Then with that information, I can go to the public library and look in a directory on paper and find out where that person lives and find out what his job is and all kinds of stuff. Not everybody, but for many people. That data was being collected for a long time. Now it's worth a lot of money. And it's like you said, it's way more than it, and it's permanent, perpetual. That data is out there. And maybe no one's watching you today, but maybe in 3 years, someone might want to be watching you for the last 18 months, and all that data is available for a very cheap price.
Yes.
I'll give another example. So I had a discussion on this. So my neighbor has a Ring camera. And so the Ring camera is looking directly at my front porch. So there's an aspect of your house. You guys want to know this. There's an aspect of your house that is considered as having the same protection or right to privacy as your bathroom. And that is, let's just say roughly, when I go out my front door and I close the front door and I put my hand on the front door and I make a 90-degree angle and I extend my other arm out. So I'm probably measuring like a meter from my front door. It could be 2 meters. It could be 4. I'm just saying something like that. And the perimeter of my house, I'm not talking about your front lawn, but we could go out to your front lawn. But I'm just saying the perimeter of my house that's maybe 2 meters out from the outside walls is known as the curtilage of my house. And it's private. And so if someone's making a perpetual video record of me within the curtilage of my house, he's looking at me as if he's making the same violation as if I'm sitting in my bathroom.
Oh, wow.
But we accept this. So what does that mean? So do I have the right then to block him, block his camera, destroy it? I don't actually. It's actually a crime if I do that. But what I can do is I can send him a notice and say, among other things, I can say, because you're doing this, you have a choice. You can reorient your camera so that it's only focused on your front door for deliveries and whatever else. And you can do the thing you want to do so that I'm not in the frame of your camera. Or you might be a witness in a crime if I am a victim of a crime like a burglary. Or you might be a suspect in the crime because I think you've been casing my house, or that your data is being collected and used to case my house so that people know when I'm there or not there. Because you can never guarantee against a data breach. There's always going to be a data breach somewhere. So having a Ring camera on your house creates a huge civil liability for you. You might think it's convenient. You might think, it's okay. I can see when Amazon brings my package. But you're watching your neighbor, or someone is watching your neighbor, and you could have the liability. There's all kinds of considerations with this stuff.
Well, yeah, that is a lot of consideration. That I haven't even thought about that. I can't imagine anybody else as well. These are not things that are privy to us, or it's even in our radar screen.
Yeah. So we get into the other aspect, like you kind of mentioned, where one thing leads to another. So right now there's a company called Flock Safety. I think it's called Flock Group Inc. or something. I just did the research on it because I want to teach people some things on this. But Flock Safety has video surveillance technology that is being installed by the police and by the cities and by your retailers like Home Depot and Lowe's. So when you go into the parking lot, your tag is being collected on your car. And it's like I told you before, where I could do that on paper. Now it's push button real time. I can then connect your tag to all the other data that's way more data than was before. Can you imagine? So once I get your name, I can get your credit file. I can get your SSN. I can get your, okay, we understand that because we're giving this out all the time, right? but what else can I get? I can actually compare using AI, because I used to make fun of this stuff and say, that's too much data. They can't track it, until I heard they were using AI. And at first I was like, what's that? Now I understand. So Home Depot gets your tag, right? And Flock sells this data, let's just say. It's probably more complex than that, but Flock buys the data from Home Depot. Maybe Home Depot is selling the data to Flock using Flock's apparatus. And then somebody's connecting that data to your behavioral patterns, where you're driving, what you're doing, what you're buying, creating a demographic or a whole profile of your weekly routine. That's kind of scary. And then who has access to it? Well, I'm sure there's some people that have access to it, some creatures that we don't want to have access to it. I'm not saying your neighbor has access to it, but the fact that you don't know and you don't have control over the data is it concerns me a little bit. What could be done with that?
Yeah,
guilt by association.
And here's the thing. All these data collectors, none of them have any guarantee whatsoever they're actually protecting your data. Right now, data breaches are so prevalent, you can bet your bottom dollar that you, your spouse, your kids, your grandparents, and your pet goldfish all have their identities, their credit scores, and everything else completely leaked online in some dark web somewhere. You're guaranteed to be a victim of ID fraud at this point.
Yeah. There's every time you leave your house, I mean, it's just your data is everywhere. So it's so pervasive that even if a data collector, let's say Google, I love to pick on Google, that Google, what if Google just, you said, hey, Google, stop getting my data. And Google said, you know what, you're right. We're so sorry. We're going to stop doing it. As soon as you got that notice from Google, Google would be collecting your data. Even if Google said, we deleted all your data, the moment it deleted all your data, it's still collecting it. It can't stop.
No.
They just can't stop. It's so embedded in everything. Yeah. So what the heck do you do? So let's look and see what they're doing. What is the data? The data is something that identifies you uniquely. No one else but yourself. So this is what identifies you uniquely, is part of what's known as your likeness. Now you would think, what the heck? Likeness? Well, this is what runs Hollywood. This is what governs intellectual property rights, your likeness. Think about how many famous people that you've seen in the movies have licensing rights on their likeness, or if they're not too smart, if their agent's not that good, the movie producer has the licensing rights on the person's likeness. Yeah. Right? Because it's very valuable. Some people's likenesses, I mean, like some famous actors and actresses, they have a likeness. Muhammad Ali had a likeness. In fact, Muhammad Ali in 2004, he sold his likeness, a portion of it. He sold 80% of his likeness for $50 million. Wow. So you can go look this up. Michael Jackson as well. I mean, Marilyn Monroe's estate is still in business. I don't know if you guys know this. No, I have no idea. Yeah, it's actually a business. So sometimes a famous person, it can be used, it's his or her likeness can be used in a business like branding. And if the attorneys are running it, they will run it for generations. Oh, wow. Whether they're running it with your family or whatever, but yeah, Marilyn Monroe is still in business. So is probably Michael Jackson. Probably he'll be around. Michael Jackson, definitely. Probably, yeah. But if people have a likeness, and of course, a famous person would be more valuable. Clint Eastwood, I'm sure, would have a higher likeness value than me or you. But so what? We still have a value of likeness, if nothing but for our own security and safety, right? I have a right to privacy. It's a property right. So what constitutes my right to privacy or my property right? Well, the property, what is that? What's being taken from me? Well, how do we know what it is? Well, it's what they want from us, right? Your name, your address, your SSN, biographical data, but then biometric data, your face, the way you walk, all kinds of attributes about your physical appearance, your eye and all this, your face structure, all this is your fingerprints. That's an old one, and so this is property, and it's your private property. So what's happening is this data is being collected, your property is being collected, or images of your property is being collected without terms, or the terms are not in your favor. Now, you have some states like Illinois, but believe it or not, Illinois has some pretty good laws. So does California about the collection of your data. So does Texas. And it's coming on board. There's more and more statutes that are governing, what can be done with this data, but they're never going to be as good as you want them to be. They're always going to serve corporations that have an interest in collecting your data. So what you can do, because it's your property, you always want to give it up if you have no choice. I mean, what do you want to do? Live in a hole in the woods? You're in modern society. So you can give it up, but with conditions. So what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? Conditions like
so if I, for example, if I'm interacting with Google or Apple or my ISP, and my ISP I would imagine has all kinds of information about me, okay, my credit card information, whatever. This information is unique to myself so that I can put a lien on it. It's property.
Right.
So I can describe it. If I can describe it, then it has value. What has value, I already know this because the company wants it, right? So it must have value. So we can get into that. It's a different subject. But what happens after my data is collected? Well, we know that it's been collected, so we know that it has value. Otherwise, they wouldn't spend money to get the data. So it has value. It comes from me. Therefore, it's part of my likeness. It identifies me. So I want to describe it. Now, if I let's say I borrow money from a bank to buy a house. What does it look like if I get a mortgage? First, there's the property description. The property must be described in the mortgage. Then the terms of the lien instrument. So the mortgage is the lien instrument on the property. And then there's default terms and all this, and there's dispute terms and all this, right? So if I have property and I describe it, I can then express a lien interest in that property. So if I give information about my likeness to a third party like Google, it could be used to make Google the debtor in a security agreement. And just to make this easy to understand, let's just say when I say security agreement, let's just call it a mortgage. So Google is the borrower in a mortgage in which I'm the lender. I'm the licensing party. So if Google wants my data, it will be under certain terms, meaning I can, for example, the Ring camera completely waives your Fourth Amendment protection. The police, they could just take whatever data, they could do whatever they want with whatever that Ring camera is collecting on you. So you, by implication, you've just waived your Fourth Amendment just because your neighbor has a Ring camera and you didn't do anything about it. You didn't put them on notice or anything. So the way you recovered the Fourth Amendment protection is you put terms on the collection of that data for that particular interaction. You put terms that express that there is no waiver of rights if the data is collected. And then when the data is collected, it's collected, stored, and used. We don't care where it goes after that. But when it does go somewhere, or if it does, you could restrict the manner in which it's used in other ways. But you can put a dollar amount on. I know you guys are waiting for me to say this. Can I make money with this?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. So what you're doing is, it'd be like if you wrote a song, right? It's really good and everybody wants to play it and sing it. And so you could just make a license, a licensing agreement. This is what you use them all day long with software. Okay. We're agreeing to all kinds of software licenses and we don't even realize it. You can license out the collection, use, and storage of your identifying information, your likeness, your data for dollar amounts. And you can foreclose upon those. And so what I'm thinking is, when you put a lien on this data, let's pick on Google, and we put a lien on this data, and then enough people do it, what's that going to look like on Google's disclosures to the SEC and its investors? What does that look like? It's a liability that's growing that they can't yet calculate. They don't understand it yet because no one's done this yet. Although the legal framework is already there. I'll give you an example. People say, well, John, you can't Google's not going to agree to this. But under the Uniform Commercial Code, which is international, but it's in all 50 states, there is agreement upon receiving the benefit of whatever it is. So all you have to do is file the lien. Google already agrees to it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So think about it. This should blow your mind. Like, you should have 40 or 50 new liens every year. Once you discover who's doing this stuff, like, let's get up to Palantir.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You wouldn't even have to name Palantir.
That will stop Peter Thiel dead in his tracks.
I mean, at some point he's going to have to look at this and say, what the heck? There's this huge liability. So there's a cost of acquisition for your data that now they don't completely control and they can't estimate. All they can see is it's growing.
Right.
And I don't know how they're going to account for that. But at some point you could foreclose on your interest in that, make them pay, or you can consolidate. If we all work together, we could consolidate these into a fund. We get a little power there. We could do something. But we can have the control. We don't have to wait for our state to write laws. They're not going to write laws in our favor. But with your security agreement, your mortgage, you can write the terms of what you want for your data. You could restore legal protections that you normally would have, under the Constitution or whatever, for privacy and due process and all these things, if you have terms on the disclosure and acquisition of your data.
Dude, that's remarkable.
Yeah, because you're not going to stop them, but you can say terms. Now, I get an example. So last week I did a call on this, and my micro example is when this probably appeals to a lot of people. When Coinbase or Kraken asks you for example, if you have an LLC account at your exchange, or LLC, or maybe you have just a personal account, right? And the exchange is now saying, we want to see your tax returns, as if it's a police power making sure that you're filing and all this stuff, right?
Sure.
So as it turns out, operating agreements that might be requested by the exchange or tax returns, I'm just going to tell you two little things. The tax return may have proprietary data.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Many people don't associate this two together, but the case law is all there. So you could say, okay, look, you want my tax return, that's fine. But just understand that it has proprietary data, and you have to compensate me for it, or you have to guarantee or indemnify me against the loss of this data. For example, on my tax return, I might have a strategic way of accounting for something that my competitor doesn't have. And if I give it to Coinbase, then Coinbase is not a custodian of that. And by the way, who's competent at Coinbase to read my tax return and why? So we get into all that. So proprietary data on that part of it. But then on the other part where it's asking for your operating agreement, that part of it may be under the attorney-client privilege or the work product exception. And so, for example, your tax return data is protected by the tax code, not just the attorney-client privilege, but it's protected under the tax code under 6103, Title 26, USC 6103, where if someone wants your taxpayer information, your tax return, he's required to ask the Secretary of the Treasury. And I can tell you right now, the exchanges would not be permitted to obtain your tax return information from the Secretary because they don't have a permissible purpose. And why should you be compelled to waive your protections just to have an account in the private sector with these companies? There's all these protections there, but people don't know about it. And they say, oh, I really don't want to give it, but they're going to close my account. And so you just give it, but you give it without terms, or you give it without writing back and saying, okay, if I give it to you, there's conditions because of this, this, and that. Are you willing to accept those conditions? Are you willing to indemnify me? Right. So when you collect it, like if someone robs my house, right, he goes in there and he takes, I have a bar of gold or something, and then I got something else sitting there that he thinks is valuable, and he says, hey, I want this too, or else. And I say, okay, you can have it. He doesn't realize that it's a lump of plutonium. So he takes it. So I say, good luck with that. If you want my data, it's on fire. Here you go. It's a huge liability if you make it a liability.
And liability is something none of these corporations want, John. They don't want that responsibility.
And they're used to not getting any liability because no one's saying anything. But if you said to them, you can have it, but you owe me. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah, you do. There you go. And then next thing you see is on the county records where the mortgages are literally where the mortgages are recorded, you have a security agreement describing the data that you gave to that whatever institution, company, whatever, in which creates a lien on that company that's established by the Uniform Commercial Code. Can't get around it. So I like to introduce that to people because I hear this so much, and there's some really smart people out there. I mean, if there's some things you could do to avoid it. I mean, you could just have Linux on your desktop, and all these things. And there's some really cool people that, get a de-Googled phone and all that, but you're really not, it's so pervasive. You're just not going to get around it realistically. I mean, even if I didn't even use a cell phone, my wife's phone would be enough data to just wrap me into the whole system.
Oh, sure.
Or me just driving around. I mean, you're just not going to avoid it. So what I'm thinking is, if it's valuable, which it is, you should get a piece of the action. It's like when my bank says, we have to hold your check for 7 days. And I say, I don't mind as long as you cut me in on the money you're making by holding my money when you don't need to hold it.
Yeah. That's a conversation that you don't want to have.
No, they laugh. They go, let me get the manager. And the manager comes out. He starts laughing. He goes, look, don't worry. We can let it go. because I was laughing, I was smiling,
Oh man.
yeah.
Wild
But
stuff,
it's
John.
yeah. So we don't have to be victims. We don't have to be a bunch of whiners. It's business, right? It's just
Yeah.
business. Put a lien on your data. It's your data. You have every right to do that, and you can foreclose upon it. Now, I'll just tell you one thing I do. When I put the lien together, we file it. It's like maybe 2 pages, maybe 3. We file it in the county. We can also file it with the state. But in the lien document, when I want to go take my money, when I want to foreclose, I don't write these so that I have to go to the court and ask the judge if I'm right. Do you think that's the system is going to let me do that? How many years am I going to spend? Right? Do you think that the court's going to be amenable to this whole idea? People say, John, can you really do this? Of course you can. I mean, the law's on our side, but you know how what happens if you get into this quagmire of litigation, right? So what I did is I wrote a provision in the security agreement that allows you to obtain a final determination as to your property rights, a judgment through an arbitration, and memorialize with basically a rubber stamp where the judge cannot hear or make a determination on the merits of your claim on your property rights. The judge has to agree with you unless there's fraud or some weird thing going on. And once you have that, it allows you, once you get that judgment lien from your security agreement, it allows you to literally take the money out of the debtor's bank account, just like the IRS would.
Mm.
We have power. We just have a lot of power. So this is one way to get it.
That's incredible, man. If people want to learn more about this, they can go to Ace of Coins.club and join your organization, correct?
Exactly. aceofcoins.club has a series of video modules. I think one of them we just put up there for this exact subject. I think it's got privacy or something like that. LLC strategies, privacy, but it's there. And also aceofcoins.com. And then people can schedule time with me. And I look at their individual situation. And so once I show somebody how to do one, I pick one debtor, whatever's their biggest pain, I show them how to do the lien on that one debtor. And that allows them to do the liens on all the other debtors once they see how it works.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is powerful, man.
But it's, I want people to do it because it actually helps me. If more people were to do this, then so many people are doing it. Now, how are they gonna fight you? If one kook did it, then maybe, the system would reject it and it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah. We go mission critical with this and we get critical mass, and then that's a whole other story there. That's real power.
Right. Yeah. And that's how they're using it against us. I mean, the system is a groups of associations that are imposing policies on people, just like the banking disclosure policies. It's not some law. Like, for example, getting a social security number to get a bank account or getting a tax number for your bank account holder, like a company, that's not required by law. But the bank will not open your account without it. So the bank has a policy that's not even a law. So they're using their associations to do this. We should do the same thing. And you would be part of an association if you're also filing a lien on your data. It's already an association. We don't have to say anything. It's like voting. Man. Yeah, it's a lot of power.
It is a lot of power. It's real power. And it's how you make a difference. John, anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's covering it. We can get into the labyrinth of people behind the collection of your data. It might scare you. I just want to share that with you. So
yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I mean, it goes all the way to Palantir, as you know. Before you get Palantir is like the mothership of all this. But you have all these different applications or software interactions with merchants and retailers and people where you're using technology to get goods and services in society. And all this is piped into Palantir. It all comes to Palantir. It's a private sector. They couldn't get it pushed in the public sector, but they broke it apart and they're using the private sector, but a myriad of ways of collecting your data. So there are literally, your data is probably being collected and used by probably 20 or 30 organizations that you've never even heard of before.
Oh, absolutely. Can you name a few of these organizations?
Flock Safety would be a good one to understand. Flock Safety is the DBA for Flock Group. Another one would be Plaid, Plaid, plaid.com. Plaid is collecting data when you're dealing with rental properties, when you get to be a tenant, a renter or something.
Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, it's kind of scary what they're doing with your data. So Plaid is a very important one. Another one you may want to check out online for free is just Intellius.com. If you just search on your own name, oh my gosh. Search on your family. Just pick somebody in your family and search on them.
Yeah. They're the ones that run that nefarious Google ads. Oh, there's several warrants and tickets out in your name, and you click the link, and it's total clickbait. And then I would imagine the $30 to get whatever full report where you find out you don't know anybody anything.
Exactly. Yes, because it looks legitimate. I mean, I imagine if I'm going to run a scam, the first thing I would do is go to Intellius and get someone's data for $1.38. Or get batches of it. Yeah,
I know, it's so crazy. And from those
how we
can actually create a dossier.
You know how we beat FinCEN? Now, FinCEN, they try to impose this collection of your biometric data when you register a company with your state. Remember this fiasco in the last couple of years? Okay. Yep. So for about 2 years leading up to them implementing this, I was telling everybody, I said, look, they won't last the first year they implement it, which was last year, January 1st last year. They didn't last but 3 months until some lawyer in Georgia beat him on a constitutional issue. And then some lawyer beat him again in Texas on the same constitutional issue. And I told everybody, you might win on the constitutional issue, but it may get overturned, which I think it did. But they stopped with the policy. And when Trump came in, Trump just said, stop. And so that's why they're not doing it right now. But what I explained to people is back to what I was talking to you about. This is the collection of your tax return information. FinCEN's collecting your biometric, or I'm sorry, your beneficial owner information for your company. That is it's taxpayer information. All they did was relabel it as BOI information.
Exactly.
BOI. Yeah. Exactly. So they're still restricted under 6103 of the tax code. So if FinCEN wants it, it's the Secretary of the Treasury. Why? It's the Secretary of the Treasury. That's the repository of your tax return information. Why is it asking you for that when it already has?
Yeah, it has to do
what's going on. Yeah, what's going on here? They're trying to get you to waive it. Yeah. And so the protection
information that you already have, that they already have.
It's because they'll just add to it. But what people get so scared. I told them, here's what I told them, man. In 24, I said, look, I will actually, for your company, I will be the custodian of your data, and I will deal with FinCEN, and I will become the responsible party. There's a provision in the law that says someone can be the responsible party, the reporting company. That's me for my clients.
Yeah.
So I said, if there's any problem with this, I can end up going to jail and spend, tens of thousands of dollars in penalties. They're like, you're crazy. I said, no, I'm right. I know I'm right. And not one time did FinCEN say anything, but if FinCEN were to ask me, hey, why didn't you do this report or whatever? I'd say, well, you need to go to the Secretary of the Treasury for the data, because I'm not required to waive my privacy rights. You can't make me do that.
Right.
And it's public record. And why don't you just go subscribe to Intellius? They probably have it.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's ways of looking at these things. And so thanks to Trump, it got shut down. Now I'm sure they're going to bring it back. But look, if they really want to do it, this is what I'm saying. It's the same information the secretary already has, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they just tell the banking system, don't open an account unless the customer has a FinCEN identifier? Why not just do that? Again, make it a banking policy, and then no one can challenge it. Why didn't they just do that? I just wonder, maybe they just wanted to wedge in some legislation so that people just accept it, and then they could just put in more requirements. Like, okay, give us your retinal scan. What did they just do was it Vietnam? The country just froze 86 million bank accounts, like the whole country, on the condition that what was it, Vietnam?
Yeah, it was Vietnam. It was Vietnam. John?
On the condition that to get access. Yeah. Did we cut out there?
You froze for a second. Yeah, 86,000 or something.
Million.
86 million.
Yeah, they wanted to tell everybody in the whole country, if you want your money, you have to give us your biometric data. So you can only imagine this is coming here. Mm-hmm. My response is, okay, here you go. But those are the terms. Here are the terms. You owe me a heck of a lot of money for doing that. And you're going to indemnify me against the problems I would suffer with a data breach for which you are now liable because now you have my data.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you're liable.
I mean, look what they're doing in the UK. They're having the real ID thing where you can't go to work without the digital ID. Yeah.
They're doing it from a public, the government's doing it. But here in the States, they try to do it that way, but people protested. And so now they're bringing it to the private sector. And then probably later on, they'll kind of do it that way. But in the UK, they're probably going to come in there and say, we don't need to do this anymore. And then what you'll find is all these companies now, when you go to rent or something, they're going to implement the same thing, but on a myriad of data entry points, right?
Yeah.
And then it'll end up in the same hands what they were seeking before through the actual government. So they're just not going to let this go. Okay. You guys are not going to defeat this, but what you can do, you can't stop them from getting the data, but what you can do is put terms on it and foreclose upon those terms and see if they like it then. See if they don't want to change the policy. What are you going to do? Say, no, you don't have any privacy rights? Well, maybe. I don't know, because that affects other things too.
Yeah.
I mean, that affects artists, that affects, intellectual property. So how are you going to say people don't have privacy rights?
Yeah, exactly. Very well said, John. Very well said. You covered a gambit of a myriad of different topics. Any last things you want to say?
No, I think that's good enough to chew on for a while. Yeah, maybe we can do an actual tutorial at one time and show people how to do it.
Yes, you know what? We'll create, folks. We're going to create a tutorial with a live show where you can log on and we'll go step by step in this workshop on how to do it.
Yeah.
We'll call it the buyback data or protect your data workshop.
We'll call it Palantir.
Palantir.
Let's call it Palantir.
Palantir proof. There you go.
Palantir proof. Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
So keep it locked and loaded right here, guys. Keep us followed. And again, follow John's work over at aceofcoins.com, as well as aceofcoins.club, and join him. With that being said, we're over and out. Cheers, everyone.